Hello everyone, this is 3.5 Archive, and I'm going to do another D&D 3.5 Prestige class review today. This will be our 10th D&D 3.5 Prestige class review. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. This is going to be trying out an impromptu video. So instead of essentially reading off of a script, I'm just going to go ahead and read through the Prestige class and sort of give my comments and thoughts as I go through. I've already read through it a couple times and formed a few thoughts, but nothing concrete. So today we're going to be looking at the Exotic Weapon Master Prestige class. I chose this one because it's only 3 levels, so it'd be a good short one to test this idea on, but it does have a lot of options. So this Prestige class has got 3 levels, and each level gives you an exotic weapon stunt. So these are sort of like feats, except there are no prerequisites or anything to them. This is a Prestige class focused on, as you can imagine, exotic weapons. The illustration shows presumably a gnome with a gnome hooked hammer attacking some kind of practice dummy and knocking the top of it clean off. So this Prestige class requires you to have base attack bonus of +6. So you're going to have to be at least 6th level to take it. You're going to need to have 3 ranks in craft weaponsmithing, which is going to be pretty easy. It's even a class skill for fighters. As for feats, you just need exotic weapon proficiency with any exotic weapon, and then weapon focus with any exotic weapon. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same one, but obviously you're going to have to be proficient with it to take the feat. And special option here is that races that have familiarity with an exotic weapon, like dwarves who treat a dwarven war axe as a martial weapon, are considered to already have the exotic weapon proficiency feat for the purposes of qualifying for this class. So all in all, this is a very easy Prestige class to get into. 3 skill ranks is honestly probably the biggest requirement. You're probably going to take weapon focus at some point or another. A lot of people will. And if you are playing a dwarf or a gnome or potentially even an elf, you will be able to meet the first prerequisite pretty easily. So this is very lightly restrictive Prestige class, and if you're going into it as a fighter, you're going to have plenty of feats to take those to. So this is pretty much a gimme for a character that's using exotic weapons already. So with this Prestige class, you get full base attack bonus, as you would expect. You get same skill points and mostly the same class skills. This has actually got one of the shortest class skill lists of any Prestige class or class at all that I've ever seen. Your only class skills, according to this, are Craft, Intimidate, and Profession. And interestingly, the book seems to note Profession as intelligence-based here, when in fact it is wisdom-based, but that's just one of the typos you find here and there in the 3.5 books. So you don't gain any proficiency with any weapon or armor. That's okay, because you've already got proficiency with what you're going to want to use. And there are a lot of different exotic weapon stunts. So I'm going to go through each of them, and basically I'm going to say what it is, give my thoughts on it, and I'm going to give it a rating out of 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. At each level, an exotic weapon master learns a special trick that he can use with any exotic weapon for which he has the weapon focus feat. And you gain it when you gain the level, you can't change it once you've selected it, etc. And you can't select the same stunt more than once, which wouldn't really help you, I believe, in any of these cases, unless you were trying to select it for more than one exotic weapon. So let's go through these, because these are the meat of the Prestige class. So the first one is Close Quarters Ranged Combat, which basically means when you're using an exotic ranged weapon that you choose this one for, you don't provoke attacks of opportunity while using it. So there's a lot of options in 3.5 that let you avoid attacks of opportunity for firing a ranged weapon while threatened. There's lots of them. There's feats. There's the Order of the Bow. Prestige class has a feature of that sort. If we're willing to branch out to Pathfinder, there's multiple feats that allow that. I believe there's a skill trick in 3.5 that allows that. So there's lots of ways to get this. I would give this one a 5 out of 10. It is a useful feature to have. Usually, if you're playing a ranged character, you already want to stay out of melee. And odds are, if you're doing point buy or something, you're playing an archer character in 3.5, you've probably built up your strength secondarily to your dexterity, so your constitution might be possibly a distant third. So already you're going to be a little bit more hesitant to get into melee. So I give this one a 5 out of 10. If you're playing the right kind of character, then it's worth taking. This book, The Complete Warrior, has this prestige class. Also has the Great Bow, which is a 1d10 long bow, as well as the composite Great Bow to go with it. So that's one option. Not a particularly good one, but about average. And there's plenty of other exotic ranged weapons as well. The next option is double weapon defense. When wielding an exotic double weapon with both hands, the character gains a +1 shield bonus to AC. So this one's interesting. It essentially replaces 2-weapon defense, although 2-weapon defense also comes with improved and greater versions that can improve your armor class even further. This also lacks that feat's additional bonus for if you have ranks in tumble. So this is inferior to the feat, and unfortunately does not seem to stack with it, as shield bonuses do not stack. Dodge bonuses do. If this one granted a dodge bonus, it would be better. As is, if you're not planning to go into 2-weapon defense already, keep in mind all these features could be replaced with a fighter feat. So we have to compare them inherently against a fighter feat. So if you're going to be taking this instead of 2-weapon defense, you gotta wonder why you didn't just take another level of fighter and possibly be getting that. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. It's potentially tolerable for the right build. I mean, it might be that you don't have 15 dexterity for the 2-weapon defense feat, but in that case, why are you using a double weapon? Unless you came into this from Ranger. Anyway, the next option is exotic reach. When wielding an exotic weapon with reach, the character may make an attack of opportunity against a foe that provokes such an attack, even if the foe is cover, but not total cover. Can't go too far here. So this one's extremely situational. I actually was not aware that there was anything preventing you from making attacks of opportunity if your foe had cover. That's one of the rules I've actually missed during my long time playing 3.5. This is very situational. In my experience, it's pretty rare that a lot of DMs forget to even use cover. A lot of DMs forget that creatures provide soft cover, in addition to perhaps like firing into melee penalties and all that. So I'm going to give this one a 2, maybe 3 out of 10. This just isn't something I would take unless I was fighting. If there was a dungeon master that used a lot of terrain features and a lot of tactical movement. That would be the only case in which I would take it. The next option is Exotic Sunder. When wielding a one-handed or two-handed exotic weapon, you do an extra 1d6 points of damage on any successful Sunder attempt. This one's really not very good. Sundering usually is not a great option for the oft-repeated fact that if you sunder something, you're usually destroying your own treasure. That said, I have, as a dungeon master, set up some instances, such as demons who already have a good natural armor bonus in full plate armor. They were just wearing mundane full plate armor, so the characters are high enough level they really didn't care. They just wanted to remove that +8 to armor class that was making it difficult for them to hit. And in that case, sundering was good, but a d6 of extra damage is really not enough to be tolerable. I mean, it's an extra 3 points of damage on average, and I believe armor has hit points equal to 5 times its armor bonus. So if you're trying to sunder full plate, you need to do 40 points of damage. That's quite doable, but 1d6 isn't going to make much of a difference. So I'm going to have to give this one a 1, maybe 2 out of 10, but I would say a 1 out of 10. Less because sundering is bad, and more because the amount of damage provided, especially given how situational it is not very good. The next option is Flurry of Strikes. When wielding an exotic double weapon or a spike chain with both hands, the character can elect to use a full attack action to make a flurry of strikes. So it's basically like rapid shot. You make one extra attack, but all of your other attacks in that round and until your next turn, interestingly, is in addition to rapid shot, take a -2 penalty. So it's essentially rapid shot for melee. The extra attack can be with either end of the double weapon. This is a pretty good option. Rapid shot is a good option. This is essentially rapid shot in melee. It's not quite as good as a weapon of speed or haste, but it's still pretty solid. You still need to use the full attack action, of course, but that's going to be the case anyway. So I would give this one a solid 8, maybe 9 out of 10. It's possible that this is the strongest one, at least given my initial read-through, but we'll see if I still agree with that by the end. The next option is range disarm. So this lets you make a disarm attempt even on a ranged attack. It provokes no attack of opportunity, except as normal for using a ranged weapon, so that's good, and that's about what you'd expect. For the purposes of disarm attempt, you treat the ranged weapon as a light weapon. So this is where this option falls apart. Even if you're using a dwarven great crossbow, you're going to be treating this attack, this disarm attempt, as if it was from a light weapon, which is a -4 penalty on your disarm attempt. So that's not very good. I mean, it does come with the upside again that you don't provoke an opportunity attack, but you don't anyway if you have improved disarm, and that you can't be disarmed if your attempt fails because you're firing from range. But again, a lot of weapons provide this ability or benefit already. So this one I'm going to have to give a 4 out of 10 to. It's still nice, but there are other options for getting range disarm. In fact, there's a feat in this very book that allows you to do it, and there's really no reason why you couldn't do it with an exotic ranged weapon. So this just sort of replicates the feat, but potentially is worse than that feat. So it's not very good. In fact, yeah, the range disarm feat on page 103 of Complete Warrior has more prerequisites, but it doesn't specify that your weapon is treated as a light weapon. So not sure if this was on purpose because this one's a little bit easier to qualify for, or if it was simply lack of communication between different people designing different parts of the book. But yeah, 3 or 4 out of 10 for this ability. There's better options. The next option is Show Off. As a standard action, you can display your mastery in an exotic weapon and confound your opponent. Basically lets you make an Intimidate check, and if the check succeeds against the modified level check, then they become shaken. This really doesn't do anything in particular that you can't already do. It doesn't seem to provide any benefit to the Intimidate check. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3 out of 10. I mean, fear and intimidation checks are very powerful if you can pull them off. Shaken is very nice. Making someone frightened is a good way to control them. But other than being another option, if you have another ability that frightens or shakes enemies to combine this with, to add the frightened condition, this isn't very good. I could be wrong there, though. The next option is Stunning Blow. If the character has the Stunning Fist feat, you can utilize the feat while wielding an exotic melee weapon. So, Stunning Blow is really nice. It can stun an opponent. It's not that difficult to qualify for if you're a fighter. You do need to be pretty high level and have improved unarmed strike, so that is going to use up some more of your feats. If you are playing a monk, taking this prestige class, a lot of your monk special weapons are exotic weapons, so this will let you use those in its place, although in the case of a monk, your unarmed damage is almost certainly better than any exotic weapon that you're wielding. So, overall, I will give this a 4 out of 10. For some very unusual builds, this can be quite good. Stunning is really nice. If you're willing to put a few feats toward it, and then you were using Mercurial Greatsword or other very powerful melee weapon, this could be pretty good addition to that. But as is, it's not giving you Stunning Fist, it's letting you apply it, basically channel it through a melee weapon. So that attack is going to have to be better than the presumably unarmed strike that you'd be using it with. For the next option, you have Throw Exotic Weapon. You can throw an exotic weapon with no penalty, even if it's not designed to be thrown. You can throw an Orc Double Axe or a Spike Chain. Only one end of the weapon, if it's a double weapon, strikes the target, and it has a range increment of 10 feet. This one's interesting. Don't believe that the returning property can be put on a weapon that's not already considered ranged, but even if so, range increment of 10 feet is not very good. If you want to be throwing weapons, there are better options to do that. And while it does look cool, and this is certainly one you would choose for style, I would give this one a 7 for style, but I would only give it a 3 for utility. It can be good if you really do want to, hit a fleeing enemy that's at low hit points and finish them off when the battle's already won, but that's pretty situational and not particularly useful. The next option is twin exotic weapon fighting. If you're wielding the same light exotic weapon in each hand, you're treated as having 2-weapon fighting, and if you already have it, the penalties on attack rolls are lessened to -1 for both of the weapons instead of -2. So you actually benefit less from taking this if you already have 2-weapon fighting, because the numerical benefits you're gaining are lessened. But that said, if you do already have it, you can basically get yourself a little bit closer to fighting with no penalty. This is a passable feature. You can get a similar benefit from something like the Tempest Prestige class, which I've covered before, but the Tempest Prestige class has got a lot more requirements than this Prestige class. So for a way to really minimize your 2-weapon fighting penalty, this is pretty good. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. The next option is trip attack. You can use a one-handed or two-handed exotic weapon to make a trip attack. If you're tripped during your own trip attempt, you can drop the weapon to avoid being tripped. And if if the weapon already allows its wielder to make trip attacks, this weapon instead, or this feature instead adds +2 to any trip attempt. So this can be nice to get a little bit of extra benefit, maybe to trip attempts with a spiked chain or the like. Overall, it doesn't really give you any ability to make a trip attack as part of a normal attack or anything like that. I'm going to give this a solid 4 out of 10. It's still good. Another little bonus on trip attacks is nice, but it's not going to really make up for the fact that it's already not a very good option. If you're maybe going by 3.0 rules where spiked chain was extremely powerful, even more so than it already is, then you'll probably get a little bit more out of this, but as is, I would give it a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5. And the last option is Uncanny Blow. When wielding a one-handed exotic melee weapon in 2 hands, you can focus the power of your attack to do extra damage equal to strength bonus ×2 instead of ×1.5. And if you have the power attack feat, you treat the weapon as two-handed for the purpose of determining your bonus on damage rolls, which I believe is already the case if you're wielding a one-handed weapon in 2 hands. Power attack is a 1 for 2 instead of a 1 for 1. Could be wrong there, but so this is nice. This basically will give you an extra maybe 1 to 3 maybe points of damage, maybe a little bit more. So this is quite useful. I would maybe put this second after the Flurry of Strikes in terms of just raw power for features here. Some of the others can be a lot more powerful in certain instances. The twin exotic weapon fighting one looks really tempting, but it's really just a +1 to hit. The stunning blow one is nice, but if you already have stunning blow, odds are it's not helping you very much. Stunning fist, rather. So I would say Flurry of Strikes and Uncanny Blow are my 2 favorites from here. The stunning blow being a distant third. The show off, perhaps I'm misinterpreting it, but I would maybe give it a 4th place. So overall, I'm going to give this Prestige class 3 points for concept and 3 points for execution. It does have some decent abilities. A lot of these are going to be ones you choose for style rather than power. But overall, there are worse things you can do. There are some unique features here that don't just replicate feats. And even the ones that do replicate feats, you do get 3 of these in a row as opposed to alternating with fighter bonus feats. So if you do find some sort of build that you want to put together with this, certainly the Flurry of Strikes is very useful and honestly probably justifies taking a 1 level in this by itself. Uncanny Blow is also quite nice. And then maybe if you can pick 1/3 one that you like for style reasons, that would give you a pretty good reason to round off this Prestige class. If you're simply going for the power of it, Flurry of Strikes would probably be your best bet, and then really not bothering too much with any of the others after that. But I could certainly see taking all 3 levels. Ways I would improve this Prestige class, I would certainly take away, I would make minor edits to a lot of these abilities. I would make the double weapon defense one a dodge bonus, for example. The exotic reach, I would alter in some way to make it have additional utility beyond simply being able to hit foes in cover with attacks of opportunity. Maybe even just adding one to your combat reflexes attack of opportunity count would be good. Range disarm, obviously I would take away that light weapon limit as it's not possessed by the feat. The show off, I would potentially make even a swift action or something like that, something akin to what the Zentrum fighter has. Stunning blow, this one's difficult because you don't want to give something as powerful as stunning away for free, but you also do want to make this one a little bit stronger. For the trip attack, I would potentially allow it to be made as part of a normal attack, or potentially an automatic attempt on a critical hit at the very least. Throw exotic weapon, not a whole lot of ways to change this one, and it's pretty standard for the throw anything feat, which pretty much overlaps with this this ability. So overall, the biggest problem with this prestige class would be the fact that a lot of these abilities overlap with existing feats, so the main reason to take it would be to simply get those abilities quicker than you would with fighter bonus feats by themselves. But depending on the specific arrangement of the levels in your build, you might be not missing out on very much by simply not taking this prestige class and just using feats instead to accomplish a lot of what it offers. It does make up for it, though, with not being very restrictive, so that is good. The sample exotic weapon master they give is a Gnome Fighter 6, exotic weapon master 3, so a level 9 character overall. He uses a +2 gnome hooked hammer, and for him he chose double weapon defense and flurry of strike, so he at least made one good choice there. He only has a dexterity of 12, so that would disqualify him from taking double weapon defense. He somehow has 2-weapon fighting anyway, despite not meeting the prerequisite, so perhaps there's something I'm missing there, or perhaps this character simply is made incorrectly. Again, if you're able to qualify for 2-weapon fighting, you're able to qualify for 2-weapon defense, unless you got 2-weapon fighting through Ranger, in which case you likely already have dexterity of 15 or higher, but not always. I did have a Ranger character who was not able to take 2-weapon defense. So that's about it for this prestige class review. Please like, comment, subscribe, etc. And let me know what you think of this style of video as opposed to the scripted ones. This one's a fair bit longer, but I was able to go a little bit more onto tangents here. I'm going to probably make one more of these and see what people think, and then after that I will decide how to go forward from there. So that's going to be about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.